I'm from where the fat beats stretch for mad blocks.
You're at 109 right now.
I've been telling my story since 2019. I'm going to try to tell it in the best possible way right now. And as I'm going to try to use as little time to tell the story as possible. Let's see. In 2007, I moved to South Korea. In 2019, I moved back to America. That is 12 years over which I had some experiences that make up the story of iSee109 or make up the story of 109 or 109. Let me check the camera, make sure that things are looking good first. So far, things are looking good. The story of 109. All right, I compiled 12 years worth of experiences of encountering these numbers, not on a OCD sort of thing where I was constantly looking for the numbers. No, just things that I noticed, and I took photos. So I took photos of my travels while I was traveling, and I decided that, well, might as well take some photos of the things that interest me, that speak to me, that give me, something interesting to talk about. And anytime I would see my birthday or an allusion to my birthday, I would take a photo of it. 1009 or 1009. These are instances if I saw that on a license plate or something like that. So that's the basis of the story. But then here's where the story becomes more significant. All right. So I go from just, randomly snapping photos of these numbers when I encounter them, not on a daily basis, not on a weekly basis, sometimes on a monthly, sometimes on a yearly basis. It would just be like something that would pop out to me and I would be like, wow, that's interesting. Right. But in 2019, that's when the story changed dramatically for me. So let's see. 2019. Oh, by the way, even though I moved to South Korea in 2007, I also I continued to teach English, but I moved to Saudi Arabia in 2016, and then I moved to Oman to teach in 2019, and I had a 2-week position in Peru in 2015. But anyway, so I was trying to move around the world, and I was trying to travel and just enjoy my life, right? Because I didn't have a job in America, and I can't enjoy your life if you don't work, if you don't have a job. All right, so 2019, what happens is, let's see. Between 2007 and 2019, um, those moments they were on. Those moments when I saw 109, I photographed them. They were instances on car license plates. When I was in Japan, I noticed that I was ushered to seat number 10. I looked up, and the numbers in Japanese are written from right to left, so 9 was to the right. So if you read it from left to right, you read 10-9, which is an allusion to my birthday. And so that was another one of those 10-9 moments for me. Okay, so I'm just trying to explain what happens to me when I see these numbers or whatever, right? Okay, but 2019, here's what happens. So 2019, on the day Nipsey Hussle is murdered, March 31st, 2019, I'm not in Los Angeles, I'm halfway around the globe. I wake up to his news and I drive to work. And on the way to work, I'm on a highway. I'm on a maybe not a highway. It's probably like 2 lanes. So at most 4 lanes. At most 4 lanes. Anyway, nobody's on the road at this hour when I'm up, right? No one. The roads are empty. I'm in the desert. People live there. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who live there, but at that hour, the roads are pretty empty. Just a few people going to work, myself, maybe someone else. On my way to work, a truck comes barreling down the road. There's a roundabout, and the truck cuts me off. And that truck's license plate has 1009 on it. It actually reads 1090. And so I'm already like, well, it was the same day that I learned about Nipsey Hussle's murder. So I was already messed up about that fact. Like, man, Nip is gone. So I was sad. And now that this man in this big truck cuts me off, well, now I'm angry. And you want to curse the guy. Why would you cut me off? What the hell is wrong with you? Whatever. But then once I looked at the license plate, then it was just like, it threw me for a loop. It was like, oh, those are my numbers. So it was like, whoa, that's wild. Now, the level of how bizarre this encounter was, how random, how rare this occurrence was for me, it began to grow on me. I began to say, man, I began to wonder about the moment. Like, how is it that a car with those numbers on it would have met me at that roundabout on this day at this time of day when there's no one else on the road but me and this other car, and I noticed that the license plate was 109, and he cuts me off, and it was just an accumulation of just questions like, wow, how did that happen? And the fact that the license plate read 1090 was that thing that made me say, wow. Now, Nipsey Hussle's personality, his stardom, his legacy. These things were important to me because at that time, um his star was rising, and I finally jumped on board with the Nipsey Hussle train. I knew Nipsey Hussle to be a local gangbanger from Los Angeles, and when I was coming up learning about rappers and hip hop, I wasn't interested in, gang affiliation in rap music. Um, I'm not, I grew up in a community. I grew up in a neighborhood that's non-affiliated. There's no gangs there. And so gang activity has always been very scary, very dangerous, but also very scary to me. Um, because I live, where it happens. And so hearing the stories and knowing what happens to people in that lifestyle just really, it informed me of what was possible. So with Nipsey, I stayed away from his music because his music was gang affiliated. Well, by 2018, his career had elevated to a level where he was now getting international attention, and it felt like he's safer. He's going to be in safer surroundings. He's going to be certainly a big star, and his message didn't seem to be so gang affiliated. It seemed to be more universal, more about his journey, about the life lessons he learned. So I was more receptive to this message than to his previous, albums and messages. So I was on board. I was like, I'm supporting Nip. So personally, I felt that there was a reversal of fate. I was on board with Nipsey, like, yo, he's my man, and then he's murdered, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he was headed in the right direction, and he's cut down prematurely. That's just terrible. So I was happy for him, and then I was utterly sad when we lost him. Um, well, that was the sort of effect that his death had on me. Um, and But then there were other things that made me look at him and see him. When I listened to his interviews, I looked at him as if there was more than met the eye. It was like, okay, I know he's a gang member, I know that, but look beyond his, rough and tough exterior, and listen to the message that he's sharing with us. And it's a universal, these are universal truths, and it's, highly intelligent, mind from which it's coming. So anyway, all of this taken together made me, on the Nipsey train. So losing him that day was devastating to me. And then it was even more bizarre that the same day that we lost him, or rather that I got the news that he, had been killed, I saw my numbers. All right, 109. In one of the most bizarre ways, as I mentioned, that road was empty. There were no cars on that road. So the story took on a life of its own at that point, because I remember there being a moment of clarity when I thought to myself, "Wow, I think I just experienced a miracle or something." Like, I things became clearer to me. I could see Nipsey more clear on that day, in that moment after that car cut me off, than at any point in time. And it was just like a tidal wave just came over me, and it was like saying, it was communicating to me he was Jesus, right? And I was like, whoa, that's deep. And so that's where I was at that moment after having learned of his fate and seeing those numbers. Everything seemed to make sense to me. It was like, yeah. And then that was the initial message that I received from the universe, from God. That was it. But then it didn't end there, because it was exactly 1 week later, 7 days later, when I saw something. I witnessed a miracle that it just fell right in line with the story, right in line with the narrative. It was like, yo, I saw 109 the day that Nipsey was murdered. That's proof enough to me that he was, special. But now I've got 7 days later. Seven is a biblical number. 7 days later, after Nipsey's gone, I'm going to work just as I did before. I walk outside, I look up into the sky, and I see a cross in the sky. That's when it was like, it was really solidified. I looked into the sky with a smirk on my face, like, I got it. I really got it. If I didn't get it last week, I got it today. Okay. 7 across. Yes. Completion. 7 means completion. The cross in the sky, a symbol of Christianity. Which, even in that moment, I was in a Muslim country and I was looking at a cross in the sky, saying to myself, like, isn't it kind of weird that shouldn't it be a crescent moon or something that when I received this revelation, but it was a cross. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna run with it. But the thing about this cross in the sky is that here are these lines that appear to be made by airplanes. But I rationalized it, I justified it. I said, you know what? Airplanes could not have made those lines unless they had recently flown overhead. Like, those lines are going to dissipate, all right, at most, 10, 20 minutes. Sometimes they dissipate rather quickly. I'm speaking about contrails or vapor trails, condensation, contrails, condensation trails. That's what I'm talking about. And so usually those lines dissipate. You can't see them. Well, I was staring up there and I knew that I hadn't heard or I hadn't seen any airplanes fly overhead. Okay. But not only within minutes of having seen it, but I hadn't seen airplanes fly overhead that city in like 7 months. Okay. Now I have to qualify this statement. I really have to, say something here, because airplanes flew overhead, but they flew overhead around like 30,000 plus feet. That's when you look in the sky and you see those airplanes really, really high in the sky. But in this moment, when I saw those lines in the sky, those lines weren't at that altitude. They were much closer to the ground. At least they appeared to be. I would have guessed it to have been about 10,000 feet off of the ground. If airplanes made those lines, they were about 10,000 feet, not 30,000 feet. All right. But again, if they were made at 10,000 feet, that would mean that two airplanes would have had to have flown across, one in that direction, one in that direction, because those lines were perpendicular. So two airplanes would have had to have flown across to make those lines. And there was no evidence that any airplanes have flown at that altitude in 7 months. So I could not say that airplanes had created those lines. So I was like, I know airplanes didn't create those lines. Those those lines were created by God for me to see. That's what I deduced. I was like, you know what? I know what it is. And this is the true sign that I needed to have. So anyway, I got the message, I got the sign, and what it was is um the three elements that I remembered in the desert. I saw the cross, I saw 109, and it was all within a week of learning about Nipsey. So Nipsey, the cross, and 109. Those were the three elements that I remember distinctly from the desert. So it was even more bizarre when I came back to Los Angeles and I found those three elements right there on Crenshaw Boulevard. I found a cross, a mural made for Nipsey Hussle, and then um, the apartment address with 109 in it. I saw 109, the cross, and Nipsey right at the same corner, right together. I didn't have to go looking for it. It was right there in front of me. And I was like, wait a minute, those are the same three elements I saw halfway around the globe. Like literally these things are calling my attention and begging for me to connect the dots. And so that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing. Now here's a short story about 109, just to give you some indication. Like I'm not looking for 109. This stuff just keeps happening. So when I left Oman, I had been fired from my job, and they were like, um, "Yeah, you're gonna go." They're like, "We'll give you your final paycheck. We'll book a flight for you to leave Oman, and you can go home." And I was cool with that. So they booked my flight, but I hadn't received my final paycheck. And so the first day, well, they booked the flight. I told them I'm not boarding the plane because I don't have my final paycheck. So postpone the flight. They said, okay. When you get your money, then we'll book your flight. I said, great. So the first day they said, we need you to check your account because the money might have been deposited into your account. So go check it. Now I was already upset because I didn't have my money yet. They were telling me to go to the ATM. Plus, um, my position was I could just check my phone. If whenever the bank makes a deposit into my account, I can check my phone and I can see the deposit. So I don't need to go to the ATM. But they were telling me, the company I worked for told me, well, you should go to the ATM and check to see if the money is there because sometimes the message isn't sent to your phone. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. The phone works fine. The banks send messages. And so I was angry, but I acquiesced. I capitulated. I went and walked to the ATM. I said this was going to be a short story, but I'm going to try to keep it short. First day I went to the ATM, it was hot. I'm in the desert. My money wasn't there. I called the my company on the phone. I said, I told you my money wouldn't be there. The bank hasn't sent me a message on my phone. I knew my money wouldn't be there. They said, calm down, please. Just check tomorrow. So the following day, same thing. I went to the bank, no money, no message. I called them again. I said, I told you the money wasn't deposited because I hadn't received the message on my phone. I knew it wasn't going to be there. Blah blah blah. They said, calm down, calm down. Third time's a charm. On the third day, it should be there. That should be sufficient time for the money to deposit, whatever. I said, yeah, okay. So the next day, I'm walking to the ATM to check my bank account. And as I'm walking to the bank, there is a taxi cab that's parked in a driveway that's sort of on the sidewalk. It's clearly in my way. The previous 2 days, I just walked to the bank with no problems, nothing obstructing my path. But on this third day, there's a car there, and it's obstructing my path. And of course, the license plate reads 1090. It has 109 on it. Now, it's the third day, third time's a charm. Money's got to be there. 3 days, that's enough time for money to be deposited. But it was the fact that I also saw 109 on the license plate that made me say, you know what? 109 has been following me. 109 has been with me, on all of these adventures that I've had around the world. I think 109 is a sign. I'm putting my money on 109 saying that my money is there. That's kind of how I was thinking. I was like, I saw 109 on that license plate on my way to the bank. My money's there. I got to the ATM, checked my balance. The money was there. So 109 to me was a good omen. I was like, see, you got to trust 109. Well, I checked the bank. My money was there. I called the company. I said, yes, my money is there. They said, okay, we're gonna book your plane trip, and that's it, and we'll send you home. I said, okay, thank you. On my way back to the hotel, I took the same route every single day. On my way back to the hotel, the car left. The car was gone. So when I walked to the ATM, 109, that car, it was there. Mind you, I took a picture of it because I'm in the habit of taking pictures whenever I see 109. Yeah, that's what happened. And then it was gone. So imagine if the driver, whomever, had driven away before I even got to the ATM. I probably never would have thought to myself that the money was there. But when I saw that the license plate had 109 on it, then it gave me a little bit of a confidence boost. So then 109 took on a so after Oman, OMAN, 109 became an omen, OMEN. It was an omen of good luck. It was like, man, when you see 109, that means something, so keep your eye out for it. I was also in Oman when I found that there was someone. I got a couple of stories about other companies using 109 in their name. I guess I'll have to cut that story short for the next time. But yeah, peace.
Say, look at this. I've been cleaning out my nest, and I found an old book.
What have we here? You're at 109 right now.